you are a fan of the Tin Hi-Fi P1, which was almost 2 years ago, I think that was released, I have a set that is clearly better than that. You can catch it just with the visual with your eyes. It's more aligned with tuning that you might be familiar with as being called good. It falls along those lines. It's got no real problems. It's the best planar that I've heard, including the Odyssey, because that is a set that when it's used with an iOS and a cipher cable is great in its own way, but without that you've got to really be a wizard with the EQ. So without the cipher cable, because I'm really an Android user, I got an Xperia X1 II, which will actually drive this, by the way. That would go right up in here with this chaotic mess of what am I looking at here. We've got the Dethonray Tender. Let's go ahead and take a look at these one time. First one we'll take a look at is the Goldplanar, and I'll go ahead and edit a picture over so you can take a look at this in the video. It looks beautiful. If you skip to the end of this video, you'll see a video that I've already taken, and I will pin to the end of this, where I hold all 5 of these up close to the camera and talk about it a little so you can get a close look at what we're talking about. These look and in the hand feel like something that's much more expensive. The problem is that they're tuned not very well, and like a watch that doesn't tell the time correctly, what's the point of this whole thing? This has bloated bass that goes out to the mids to 1K, and then it doesn't really have gain. It's got the like inverse of that. It's got negative gain. It actually goes down when you get to the point where it should go up for the compensation, and then it is a set that isn't, it's like I said, a watch that doesn't tell the time right. It's a wristband. This doesn't do its one job. It looks great. It feels great in the hand. I would swear it's probably costs a lot more money, and then you stick it in your ear and you realize, no, $198 is way too much for that because it doesn't sound good. That tuning that I'm talking about, to be very specific, the mid bass into the mids to 1K, a track where you can hear that play out is Dire Straits' Sultans of Swing, where you've got a bassist that's pinning down the track and a male vocalist that's close to the mic. If you play with the mid bass and you elevate it with a set that where it's not elevated, you can push the bassist closer to the vocalist or pull him back depending on how you play with the mid bass. And this is a set that pushes the bassist right up against Mark Knopfler, and it makes them sound like they're right next to each other, crowding each other for space, which is exactly what I don't want to do, and exactly one of the reasons that I actually use this track right here. Pretty much a mid-bass check. It's also for separation, because if the mid-bass is elevated, it's going to give the psychoacoustic illusion of no separation. So this is a set that I wouldn't recommend. I've had it in my possession for a while. I didn't do a video for it. Now you know the reason why I don't recommend that set. I'll go ahead and take that out. Next one. This would be the PMV PP, which would be the set that's not the 7 Hertz, would be the one next to it. It has the same driver, I believe. It's the same size according to the manufacturer, 14.2. It's got one breather hole. Some people have bought this and they like it. And I'm going to try not to be rude. It's not my thing, so I won't get on it too much. It is closer in its graph to, I mean, it's got sub bass that's over mid bass. It's got mids that correct themselves before they get to the gain, and then it starts to fall apart. The gain is a little bit abrupt. It's a little bit too far. It's actually the angle of attack, pretty much, which you could call that. It's abrupt to the ear, and it pushes things like Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. Sweetleaf, when I'm supposed to be listening to 4-string bass and drum play, and Ozzy steps out like he sometimes does. Previous videos I've mentioned where Neil Young and his nasal voice isn't a problem. Jim Croce being right on the mic isn't a problem. For some reason, Ozzy steps out when he's not supposed to. And on this set, he actually does. This is an offensive part. And a lot of things that have vocal focus, which is pretty much all of my library. Hip-hop, it's not quite as dominating as important, though a lot of Tupac stuff I'm really listening to the lyrics. That's not the impactful thing. It's a lot of rock and roll stuff where the vocalist is really literally the center of the production, where it becomes an issue with this set. So again, this is a set that I wouldn't recommend, though some people have purchased it and they're happy with it. So I'll move along, because good is what you like. And I'm just basing that on my library and giving you some context. I think it's a little rough with the vocals. The next set to talk about would be the Dethonray Tender. That sounds like a steak. And it looks badass though, actually. I like it. Does fit me well. It does look great. It's got two problems actually. One is it's $600 plus, and I don't know why. The second thing is that it's not superior to the P1, which is $169, so it's way overpriced relative to what's been considered in Chi-Fi. We've got Odyssey really that's making the planars, and they're not making the top line ones right now. And then Chi-Fi got into it. The P1 has been accepted by a lot of people as being a great set, and that's about $169, and this set is $600, and it's not as good in the sonic performance as the $169. So that's a problem. The sub-bass, mid-bass, mid being below my ideal is not a problem because it's pretty much stable, so it's not pushing out something over the other. It's not pushing the bassist over the vocalist. It's not pushing the drum kit and the bassist over the piano. It's not doing anything wrong. It's just not emphasizing low end, and in that sense it would be kind of like the P1. It's got more of a traditional gain than the P1 actually has. The problem that I have with this set is about right here, which is significantly de-emphasized. So we've got $600, and then we've got a set that takes something, and the same track that I was just talking about, Sultans of Swing, on a good replay, you can notice the hi-hat, the timing that the drummer is using with the hi-hat. I can't really catch it unless I try to find it, and then I think I catch it, but I'm not sure. It's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be normal, like another instrument. Well, there it is. There's the guitar. There's the keyboard. There's the piano. There's whatever I'm listening for. Cymbals, hi-hats. This is opening and closing. It's his timing. I can't catch it because of the reduction that this set has after about 4.5K and beyond. If this set was the same price as the P1, it could be done with some EQ, I suppose. But it's $600, so I'll just leave it at that. It's not as good as what it's competing with, and it's much more expensive. I don't really know how else to get that over to you. This is the HarmonicDyne PD1. So this is actually, out of the 5, the only one that's a hybrid. It's got one dynamic driver and it's got one planar driver. And I believe the dynamic, I hope, is taking care of the low end to give you that authentic timbre that comes with a lot of low frequency instruments and makes you feel comfortable because it's familiar to your ear. And then they throw the planar at you with all its clarity in the mids and the treble. And the problem with this set is that, like the other sets that have a problem, this set has an abrupt gain. It's got elevated sub bass. This is probably where the dynamic driver is taking care here, and it's got pretty much decent mids. They're stabilized, and then they've got a very abrupt gain point, and that's another example of where Ozzy Osbourne, actually all vocals, Ozzy Osbourne, Chris Cornell, really everything that I listen to, the vocals are clearly more forward than they are on a more traditional tuning, which would be what I'm usually looking for. Something like a lot of the Thea audio sets, something that falls along my target, along other people's targets that seem to be not quite as extended up in a like the shape of a mountain like the Harman would be. I'm not crapping on the Harman. I understand what they're doing, but there's reasons that a lot of people's targets are a little bit less than that because that can become fatiguing after a while. This is a region where that plays out, and in vocals in particular is where this starts to fall apart. And it's got a de-emphasis in an area that's similar to a lot of sets. It's not bad. It's a little bit, the band of it's a little bit wide, and it's preceded by a great emphasis and sudden emphasis. So it's more present as being sticking out because there's nothing really prior to it except traditional mids and bass. And then it jumps out, and then after it's got a de-emphasis. So it's literally jumping out at you on the graph and to the ear. So even though it's it's 380. I was going to say only 380. It's too expensive. It's not playing very well. Let's go ahead and move along. If you bought it and you like it, I'm happy for you because good is what you like. We're here for the 7 Hertz Timeless. Let's go ahead and talk about this real quick. This is a planar, and planar, if you're not familiar with it, have a resolution quality that is so clear it's almost unnatural. Like sometimes you listen to, if you came from dynamic headphones and then you listen to Planar, it might have been a little jarring at first because it gets every little freaking detail. But it's also got its presence of its tuning is different than all BAs, which have got sometimes a plasticky or metallic. People describe it different ways, but they're trying to describe something that might sound unnatural to your ear. Planar is different from BAs, and it's different from dynamic drivers. It's been well received and implemented in headphones for quite a long time. You're looking at the HE6se V2 right there. It was done with the P1 in a way that it was so appealing with a little bit of bass boost and a lot of power that a lot of people fell in love with it because it's audibly different from typical in-ear monitors. Even when it wasn't tuned ideally, its merits. When I talk about Black Sabbath Sweet Leaf, so Big Boy, the triple drop that starts at 32 seconds and goes to 45 and then runs into a 4-string bass guitar, it sounds authentic, it sounds savage, actually. It sounds quite impactful, great. It's got great speed. It doesn't linger. It's not unnaturally quick like maybe a titanium coating. Sometimes those stiffening metals are a little bit too much. Ultrasone, anybody, the headphones. This actually sounds perfect. It's got great force. The 4-string bass guitar comes in, sounds great. The Hatsune Miku at the beginning, the Vocaloid, sounds fine. I've got no problem with it. Digging it a lot. The Black Sabbath Sweet Leaf, 2-minute 30, 236 on. I've cited the P1 many times as being referenced. Like, I don't put that in my top 5 lists. I don't really go out of my way to recommend it, but if you're trying to focus on a particular thing, like fast bass play, pull in, release the strings really quick, it's really hard for dynamic drivers to get that right. This is where the Planar, and I always said the P1 just jumped out at me like, holy shit, that's like being in the room with a talented bassist. I catch the whole thing. Nothing is blurred. There's no subliminal acceptance of non-ideal, but adjusting. Mental burn-in is not going on with the Planar. It's resolving this like a fucking boss. It is really, really good. And this set has an elevation, 7 hertz timeless. Let me go ahead and throw that in. Sub-bass, mid-bass is elevated. It's close to my target, but a little bit less, which matches a lot of other people's target. It comes into the mids pretty much ideally, and then it gets to the gain region and starts to do what it's supposed to do. It's got one region that's slightly different than the rest, which is at the top of the gain, which its scale is not a problem. This little divot right here, and then it extends all the way out. This is exactly the place where I found some sets to have issue, and in particular it was the song that I'm just talking about, which is Black Sabbath. And I would say that you can go back, look at videos. I'll try to find it, or one of my long-time watchers can mention it. I say Neil Young sounds fine, though he's nasally naturally. And Jim Croce, very close on the mic, sounds okay, but for some reason Ozzy Osbourne is just being present when I'm trying to focus on bass pulls and a drum kit, and then there's Ozzy's kind of screaming at me. I have no idea why. I checked out on a spectrogram, and it is right in the region at the top of the gain. On this set, in the one area where I might say it's awesome, it's $30 more than the P1, and it's significantly better, I wreck it, but there is no but, because that point in my library, you're listening to classic rock, grunge, 80s, 90s, hip-hop, R&B, reggae, trip hop. It's not sticking out at me at all. I wouldn't even notice if I didn't actually look at a frequency graph. I wouldn't even know it existed. It's that subtle. It's not even actually there to my ear, but it is there on the graph. So I don't know where this would fit in your particular library, but for mine it doesn't. And in the spot where it would stick out, Ozzy Osbourne and other vocals, it actually, Chris Cornell also might be fatiguing right there, or noticeably slightly up on me. He's actually not on this set. He sounds great. So, and it's got lots of extension. So, does this great. Blind Faith, Can't Find My Way Home. There's a few things going on here. One, there is the guitar at the intro. Then there's Steve Winwood's vocals. Then there's significant cymbal strikes at 27, 38, and then there's others, but those are powerful. Ginger Baker, I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan, but Ginger Baker did drum battle albums with jazz drummers. Drum battles. The guy was a beast. He's a great drummer. Those are iconic strikes, but they're very significant. The one at 38 is even more potent than 27. It sounds authentic on this set. It sounds real. It sounds like being in the studio with Ginger Baker, which I've never been, so I'm pulling that out of my ass slightly. But it sounds like I would hope it would be. Not too energetic, not falling off, not sudden and then like it's being cut off, not a weird wobble that sometimes happens when the upper mids to treble is got a weird transition, and something like the gong in Masters Reality Sweetleaf that's later in the track sounds literally like it's got a wobble because part of it's emphasized, part of it isn't, and then it tails off with some emphasis, and you can hear the whoo that goes on with that. And when you listen to a set that's got more traditional kind of recession into the upper treble, you don't catch that wobble. This set plays that like a champ. The significant cymbal strikes sound excellent, actually. Going to Sultans of Swing. This is kind of the mid-bass check where I'm also checking for separation. Track number 1 on the Forever Gold disc number 2. Sounds perfect. Again with the bassist. This is where dynamic drivers choke or have trouble, or your brain accepts less than ideal because it's just such a musical engaging replay, like the Belon 03. Love that set. This is right where that would be like everything's awesome. I can deal with that. No problem. Not right here. This sounds actually perfect. We're not having any problems. Listening to a vocalist that can actually get on you a little bit, Jerry Garcia with the Grateful Dead, Ripple. I said before that this was a track that actually it sounds good on everything. No, actually it doesn't. There's a lot of stuff that treble's done wrong where Jerry might sound a little bit honky. What happens to vocals when they're not treated right because of the tuning doesn't occur with this set. So this is treating all the vocals that I listen to, which is all of my music, very, very well. Also because it's got great extension, but it's not really put out beyond the gain point. At no point on the graph does it exceed the top of the gain, which is really ideal for me. As you see, it's rolling all the way off the scale. Jimi Hendrix, All Along the Watchtower, a track that he took from Bob Dylan. I believe Dylan wrote that. And then Hendrix did it. Dylan heard that. And Dylan said that's his song now. That's the legend anyway. There's 3 solos in this track. And if you're familiar with it, the production at the beginning sounds like garbage. And then it sounds like another producer came on board and like another studio and did it much better. I have no idea what but the quality of the mastering in this, around the first solo and then the second, third is just much clearer. And that distinguishing between the production quality of one song sounding like it was done in several takes and put together, and you can audibly tell the quality of the beginning is not as good as the middle and the end, is most apparent on very highly resolving sets, and it's very, very apparent on the 7 Hertz Timeless. It is a really highly resolving set. It's kind of like a Fearless S8F banged Sony N3 AP. So I got the nice low end, and I got all of the info in the treble, but it's not fatiguing. But this is doing it better than the 1BA in the Sony. This is a really good set, and I think it's going to get a lot of love in the future by a lot of people that listen to a library that's similar to mine. It treats everything: acoustic guitar, electric guitar, bass, drum kits, male and female vocals, piano, Elton John. I could go on, but I won't. There's going to be a video at the end of this where you can get a close-up look at all 5 of these sets. If you have one of these and you find it to be different than I'm interpreting them, enjoy. Good is what you like. Literally, seriously. The only book I ever really read and liked was Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and the forward of that's basically saying what is good and what is bad, and do we need others to tell us which is which? No, we don't. But in my opinion, this is the best planar that I've ever heard, and that includes the Odyssey and me trying to EQ it into an excellent. It's got such great detail and huge amount of space because of the driver size, but it is lacking in so many ways, and it's so expensive, and it's probably going to be yanked off of my list because now I'm hearing stuff that's in Chi-Fi that's better than it and much more affordable. This was just a matter of time before this happened. When the P1 came out, I thought, man, in 6 months they're going to be crushing it. And it took 2 years, took a long time, but they're crushing it now. If they follow along that basic trajectory, they don't need to unnaturally amplify the low end like a balanced armature to copy a dynamic driver, but they can get a little more elevation without the penalty that dynamics have, because these planar drivers don't create the kind of haze because of they're just technically faster and superior to dynamic drivers. They might lack some sense of authenticity to some listeners, but they make up for that in just sheer resolution. I highly recommend, if you don't have a planar, you should get one. And this is, I believe, $200 roughly. I'm stoked about that, because two of these sets are, one of them $600, the other's $300. If the Goldplanar was tuned well, it's like a $2,000 set, and the tuner fell asleep. The Goldplanar, it's so close. That the company's home run, over the wall, with room to spare, or strike out in 3 pitches. Like they're one or the other, hot and cold. This one, unfortunately, is cold. Same shell, same everything. Maybe try to redo it. It's really cool. I'm supposed to give feedback to companies. Of all these, I would say that the Goldplanar, the cable, the delivery of it, it's in a simple box. It comes in a nice wooden thing, little holder. Everything feels great. Nice serial number card. Everything seems pro. Hold it in your hand. You're like, this is quality. And then you listen to it, and it all falls apart. 7 hertz. This is the one. Took 2 years. I highly recommend it. Please check it out. After this video, if you continue watching, you'll get a closer look at all 5. So the people that are like, well, I can't see the fucking IMs in this video. Wait a second. Right after this, and I push stop, there it's going to pop up, okay? That's it. 7 hertz, timeless. Very, very good job. Nice job. And I'm out. Okay, we got 5 Chi-Fi planar IMs. I think one of them is a hybrid. It's a planar plus a dynamic driver. That would be the HarmonicDyne. Let's start in the order of least appealing, which would be the Goldplanar GL12. It has a 12.5 millimeter. Maybe that's related to the number 12 for Goldplanar. I like the company Goldplanar. I think that as far as, it's got a really nice cable. It's a 2-pin. Let's get a close look at it. It's semi-open back. It's got nozzles that you can change. It looks like a winner. It feels like a winner. It just doesn't sound like a winner. It is just a really weird tuning. I'll put a frequency graph up, maybe right about now, where you can go ahead and take a look at it. This is an adapter that comes with it, which is quite nice, to go from 4.4, which is stock, to go to 3.5, which I needed to run it to the ADI. So the cable is nice. The build quality is nice. Comes in a wood. I might show that when I do the desk part of the video. Everything is right with this except the tuning, which is like the headphones. Some of them are pretty good, and some of them are just really, really bad. This needs a lot of work, but as far as how much are they asking for this? $198. If the tuning was good on this, for $200, this would be an easy wreck, because the cable is excellent. And the converters feels like really nice quality, and it comes in a nice wood case, and everything is okay except the most important thing, which is the tuning. I'll get into it a little bit more when I do the desktop version of the video and I attach it after this. So close. My advice to Goldplanar would be to take a look at some of the sets that are done that are a little closer, like the 7 hertz timeless, and also the PMV or PMV PP, whatever the fuck that's called. Those 214.2 are better than this one. It's just so close. I love the look. It fits good. The nozzle can be changed. It just goes from one disastrous tuning to the other. But so close. Just the tuning, please. There's ways to do it. You didn't get it done. That is the GL12 12 millimeter, $198. For my library, it doesn't work. It's hard to, I don't know. Maybe you guys listen to stuff where that would work. Again, the tuning should be up. The graph, so you can take a look at it. It's too wonky. It's like a poorly done headphone planar. Looks gorgeous, but it's not doing it. It's so close. There's some stuff that's so far away, The build quality's crap, the sound's crap. You just move along. This is just, do you put some material in the back behind the driver? Do you not open it up? There's something that can take this to the level where all you need to do is put a little bit of material near the driver or take it away. It's very, very close. I'm disappointed because Goldplanar does pretty good to bad, and this is so close. And I guess I'm kind of a fan of this whole rig right here. I really like this. Go from 4.4 from my DAP, and then go to my ADI with what seems like a really nice quality adapter. Great cable. Everything's great. Just needs to be tuned. It's an earphone, so number one is tuning. So that's the GL12. Let me go ahead and take that off of here and turn that off. Okay, next in line we got the HarmonicDyne PD1. This would be, I think, the only set that contains two different types of drivers. This is, I think, an in-house Linsol brand. They did a release, and I didn't do a video for it because I didn't find it to be, you should maybe be seeing a graph right now. $380. It comes with two cables. Both of the cables are fairly decent. This is a MMCX, where the one I just showed you, the Goldplanar, is a 2-pin. Fit is okay. It's a little bit weird to get a full, nice, solid fit. But that's just my ears, whereas that set that I just showed you, the Goldplanar, was fine. This is made out of I have an air con going now, and it feels cold, so it's made out of an aluminum or it's fairly light. I'm not sure what it is. The build quality seems decent, and again, you get two cables. It's the typical 7 hertz with that kind of angle that it's got right there. $380. Where the Goldplanar is like right there, it's got everything going for it. It's got the great cable. It's a 2-pin. The shells fit great. It's got a fantastic adapter. All they got to do is add or take away some material, maybe for the driver, and get it to where it needs to be. This is $380, and I don't think it's really close to being a competitive set. I don't have a lot of positive to say about it. It needs EQ. The benefit of having a dynamic driver is that it's giving energy to the low end, and then the planar takes care of the rest. The problem is that the 7 hertz timeless, or whatever that's called, and then the PMP or whatever the fuck that's called, exist, and they do what they do better than this, and I think that they're priced better. $380. I wouldn't recommend this. And like Goldplanar, you got to go back to work on this. Goldplanar is much closer to being realistic because of its price and because of where it actually is in its existence. Again, this thing is so close. Disappointing when stuff does that. And that's it for the PD1. Again, this is just part of the video, and it will be, I'll extrapolate some info based on music and give opinions about hi-hat strikes and drums, guitar solos, vocals, etc. So this is just a portion of the video. And that is the HarmonicDyne PD1, $380, one dynamic driver, one planar. Okay, this is the Dethonray Tender 1. That's a very weird. I actually love the fit of this, and I actually love the design. I didn't even take the peels off of this because I really like this. There's a couple things wrong with this. One, its bass is very tame like the P1, so it doesn't have the sense of elevation that these two right here have. And it's $639 last time I checked. $600. And you've got really no upper mid treble energy, and you've got no elevation in the bass, so somebody would have to take this and go ahead. And also you get a box with nothing in it. Typical Dethonray, which is cool. They make a great DAP, and also the Honey, which I didn't do a review for, but I still got it. They're all about delivering the goods. They missed it on this one. I'm kind of curious how they measure this stuff before they release it to market, and how they think that that's going to get past reviewers without getting... I use music, and when I talk about music, it's going to be very easy to talk about how, because they do, cymbals sound slightly back in the mix where they shouldn't be, and how bass, though clean and accurate and seemingly precise, lacks the sense of dynamics and authority that you might get from a dynamic driver. So you put this work in, it looks beautiful, and you miss the target, and you're way overpricing. So this is The tuning is not right and the price is not right. Again, the Goldplanar and its price, it just needs a little bit of work. So this is the Dethonray Tender. This graph should have been up on Magic of Editing. You can take a look for yourself. It looks in some ways better than the P1, kind of more traditional. It's got extension. It's got a little bit early of a descent when it comes to the mid, upper mid. It's not a killer though, but it's not sticking out as being good on either end. It's not great in the treble and it doesn't have elevation in the bass. So it's how far have we moved from the P1 by Tin Hi-Fi? With this, not much, but we've increased the price significantly, if I recall correctly. $639. No, and it's not close. So that's the Dethonray. Okay, this is the PMV PP. This is when we start getting into stuff that actually is interesting. This is a 14.2 millimeter. I don't know what the actual size is. I believe it's a square driver. I don't know how they're measuring that diagonal side to side. Does that even matter? It is a 2-pin. It has tuning that is not that different from the set that I was just holding, the Dethonray. It's got a lack of upper, mid, and treble energy, but it's got elevated bass, so, and not too much, just typical for what is dynamic drivers. So you've got a reasonably large driver. It's planar, which should be reasonably or extremely clear if you're familiar with the P1, and it's got elevated bass, which the P1 didn't have. I'll also point out that these two sets that I think are decent actually require some power, so consider that if you're interested in either one of these sets. This set fits good. Again, it's got a 14.2 millimeter. It is $169. So this is a better set than the Dethonray, which is $600. To the ear and by graph. Your eyes will tell you that, and your ears will tell you that actually very quickly too. So this set is not priced ridiculous. I think its tuning is a little bit less in quality than the 7 Hertz, but this has its benefits too. Somebody said they love this because it's got clarity and also it's got a little bit of punch more than they had when they had their P1, which they loved. I could understand somebody falling in love with this. I could totally get that. The other ones I've held in my hand, I wouldn't be able to understand, not with my library, but with this set, I could get that. I get it, but some people might want to lift up the upper mids a little bit, a couple wide band boosts, just give it maybe a shelf. Not really sure how you do it. As it comes out of the box, it's close, but I still wouldn't wreck this set. But there's some people that love EQ. I used to do Viper for Android, and I would do everything I could to get as far away from original tuning till I got lost in the jungle, and I guess it was fun. Those days are long gone. This would be a set that you might be able to have fun with because you might be able to mold it like clay and do whatever you want with it because it sounds like it's got the technical potential to do about anything you want it to do for a price that's not stupid. $169, I think I just said. I can get it. If some people said they like this, I can get it. Some people said they like the Dethonray. I don't get it. If anybody said they like the Goldplanar, no comment. So that is the PMV PP, 14.2 millimeter. Now we come to the one set that doesn't disqualify itself right off the bat. And this is you can see the breather hole there, and then it's got 3 right there. 1, 2, 3. So this is probably the same driver, 14.2, that is in the PMP, but they're different types of shells. It's an understated thing about the materials, which don't seem to be that different, but maybe the volume of the cavity inside that is having an impact on the tuning, because this is a set that is actually really close. This is like a Fearless S8F made love to a N3AP by Sony. It's got excellent low end. I love the low end on this. It resolves the bass line on Black Sabbath Sweet Leaf like a champ. The guitar intro by Eric Clapton on Can't Find My Home is excellent. Ozzy Osbourne also in that Sweet Leaf track is not getting on me like it actually graphs like he maybe should. Vocal sound unique but not bad. There's a character to this set that I kind of dig. And I've been listening to these planners, waiting for one to come along that I thought, that could find a home. And this is $219. If they kept the PMP price of $169, for $200, considering what you get a planar that's 14.2 millimeter. You get a sound replay that is unique, probably if all of your collection is dynamic driver BA combo hybrids or tribrids. If you don't have any planars in your collection, you hesitated because of the P1, because you're really not into EQ, because you don't feel like I do, like you should have to do that. This is going to give you the low frequency and give it in a authentic way. The bass replay, the releases of the strings around 2 minutes 36 seconds on Sweetleaf resolve great. I can hear them. It doesn't blur. It's got a high level of clarity, which is the plus and the minus. And the low end and the mids, that's excellent. When we get up into the treble, that could be something that might cause problems for some people. But I could see this as being something that catches on like the P1. Because of its price, because of its performance, it is probably the most Spartan of all of them. Comes with an interesting metal case. I kind of dig it because I just haven't seen anything like it. That's cool. And the cable's one that you've seen before. It's fairly common. And I get a decent fit. It seems like when I put it in, I have to slightly rotate it forward, but there's been a lot of sets where I have to do that, and that could be my ears. I don't know. The graph should have been put up already. None of these are out of the box bosses by the eye. Like you look at the graph and you think there's none of them do that. Chi-Fi, when they nail the planar, and nailing the planar is still up in the air what exactly that means, because a single dynamic set tuned in one way is not going to perform in the same way in pluses and minuses as the way a tribrid would. But a tribrid might not be the same quality in its timbre, in its tonality. So there's give and get when you are tuning different stuff. So what exactly is a well-executed planar? Is it the Odyssey? No, because if you got a cipher cable, which by the way, it should be decipher because you're taking a fucked up signal, passing it through a cable to the buds, and it's being corrected by the cable, that would be deciphering, correcting. I never understood why they call that a cipher cable. Comment below if I'm getting something wrong, but I've been into the Zodiac for a long time, and Z340 just got solved not long ago. That was amazing. I'm glad I lived to see that. But why is that cable called a cipher cable? It's not creating a puzzle. It's unpuzzling that fucked up set. That set was popular because it's got an open back, very large, and you can hear the ambient noise on the outside. It's close to headphones that are open back, so I rank it highly because it's technically excellent, but it's so fucked up that if you're an Android user, fuck off, which I am, and if you use iOS, you need that cable. Otherwise, it's fucking worthless. And the clips just snap right off like a fucking toy. So for what they asked for that's ridiculous because it's over $1,000. This is $200, and it's closer to not fucked up than the Odyssey is. And it's definitely got better bass. So in some ways, this is competing with what a lot of people consider to be probably the best released planar so far. And for Chi-Fi, the P1, I'd say this is better than that. So this is the 7 hertz, $219, 14.2 millimeter. I guess one word to describe this would be intense. But it's got low end energy, unlike the S8F by Fearless, which I'm a fan of. This would be like that with more punch. It's a good set. I'm going to do a full review for just this set, but I wanted to get the other ones in and then out because they're really not ready for prime time. And one more shout out to this just beast of a rig, which is the Goldplanar. You guys are so close. You've got the materials. You don't need to change the packaging. You don't need to do anything except to get back in there, crack this open, and play around with dampening or do something to correct the tuning and get it more in line with stuff and targets that you can find online like Squig Links, mine, or Super Views or somebody else's, and get it closer to that, and you would get better sales because people could say, okay, I trust that person. This seems to be close to their ideal. I'll go ahead and go for it. But as this is, it's just too far away. Price isn't stupid, though. And the offering is great. You're just not there tuning-wise. Some of this other stuff is just so far away. This is pretty dope. I just dropped it. And I'm out. That's the sign to go. I'm out.